And welcome back to Ask Coach Wendy alongside Wendy Mader. I'm Dave Erickson. I love this topic because this is real life. This is practical advice from a couple of experienced triathletes, and that's how to fuel on the bike and how to master those aid stations during whether it's a sprint, Olympic, half, or full distance triathlon, how to make the most out of it. So let's begin with fueling on the bike and how you make sure you have everything you need and don't lose what you've carried with you. Wendy, go.
So when I started triathlon 25 years ago, the common thing to do with carrying bars or gels, I don't even know if we had those back then, I know we had power bars, was to peel your power bar and cut it into little pieces and put it on your top tube and let the sun melt it so it would stick. That's what I used to do. It worked pretty well. And then if it didn't stick, if it wasn't that hot, then you'd go over a bump and the power bar, you'd lose your nutrition. And it's interesting that I'm thinking about that because back then I used to just wear a swimsuit. I didn't wear shorts or a top. It was just I would do a whole race in a swimsuit. So I never really carried anything on my body because I didn't have pockets or anything. So fast forward to what we do now. You're carrying water bottles, you're carrying nutrition that you've practiced with, that you know you're going to use in the race. Maybe some of you aren't going to carry your own nutrition and you're going to go through the aid station. But these days you have options to put bike holders on the back of your bike water bottles. I still do the simple down tube, and that's how I carry my water bottles. And they have a more aerodynamic, I don't even know the names of them because I don't use them, that you attach between your aero bars so you can sip water. The reason I don't like that is because when it's gone, then you really have to rely on what's on the course to refill it. And I've tried that once or twice, unscrewing a bottle, filling it, and it just doesn't work for me. And I've tried the things on the back, and grabbing one doesn't work for me. So I just have them in front of me. I carry 2 bottles. I don't need any more weight than that. And I rely on, when I'm going through the aid station with my bottles, once I finish one, typically before you approach the aid station, there's a bottle trash container that you just kind of toss lightly. So it's empty. So you have a free cage. So when you grab another one, you have that cage free that you can stick new fluid in. I always go really slow. I don't want to run into anyone. I've seen people wipe out on empty water bottles. I don't want to cause an accident. I don't want to have an accident. So I take my time, and I don't want to hurt the volunteer by going too fast and grabbing it. Volunteers have told me they've got their shoulders pulled out. So I just take my time and refuel at every aid station.
When I grab one of those bottles, I usually have my arm extended, and then I bring it back as I go to try to decrease that impact when they handle the bottle. So it's straight out, and then it's coming back at the same time and I'm coasting through it. I'm not going at full speed, obviously. And then sometimes I'll just either douse myself, put one in my jersey or a drink, and then, or this is what Roger has told me, take a good bottle, put it into your empty cage, and then grab another one. That way you have something on your bike for sure, and then grab something else based on where you are in that aid station. They usually every 10 miles on a half or a full, and then time it, because this aid stations are pretty long. Get something right away, and if not, you got the middle section, and you got one more last section. Get something, put some fluids in your body, douse yourself, and then toss it, and then you already have something on your bike.
Yeah, and that's a good point, which made me think you might grab early because you may miss it. Mm-hmm. The volunteers are actually trained how to hand off those water bottles, but sometimes you just don't get a good grip and you're not going to get it. That's why if you grab early, then you have other opportunities, depending on the length of the course, to grab a water bottle. I've actually not gotten them right away. Where I get to the end, I will stop to make sure I get one, especially in those longer races. It's worth the extra 10 seconds that I stop to make sure I get one, because there's nothing worse than doing a long race and messing up your nutrition.
Yeah, and put your hand up too. That'll notify the volunteers that you're interested in water or the Gatorade or the Powerade, whatever they have. Like you'll yell, hey, water or Gatorade, and they'll let you know. But do it ahead of time, a good distance away, so they recognize what you need. Another one of my tips would be if, for example, I like to have a banana or fluids, one of the two. I'll take bananas, I'll put them in my jersey. Mm-hmm. maybe tuck a couple of them down there, save them if I don't need it right away, but I think I may need it in about 10 minutes or so. Grab it and save it. Some people will also, you talked about the power bars, sticking them on the down tube. That seems so ancient now. But it wasn't but 5 years ago, I would tape down power bar gels or goo gels on the edge of it where you tear it off. That way I could just tear off and I'd have this long strip. I don't do that anymore because I keep all my nutrition in one bottle. It's kind of thick, but it's whatever. That's what I do. But I see a lot of people doing that. It just seems like it's a busy bike when you have this long line. I understand it's good because you're keeping track. If they say you want 3 gels per hour, you can keep track.
Right.
But how have you ever done that with the gels and taping them on your bike?
I have, and that's how I've lost them. So I've done, not only how have I lost them, but I've done it, like maybe the night before or the morning of, and then they get all, the gel comes out, it gets all sticky and gooey on my hands and on my bike. And I've actually just duct tape. You would think duct tape would hold it, but I haven't done a good job with that, and that's how I've lost them. So I've kind of stopped doing that. Nowadays, they have these little boxes called bento boxes that you Velcro to your top tube. Those are effective, but sometimes you just, depending on what you want to stash in them, they're just not big enough. I also prefer things up here with me. I don't like reaching back. I prefer things here. It's easy access. Or I stuff the gels now in my cycling short, my tri short. That's easy access. And it's not that troublesome to just tear it open with my teeth. I'm less sticky.
One thing too, it reminds me of those power bar pieces that you talked about with the heat.
Uh-huh.
I once did that and put them in my bento box, but it was a cold day and chewing a hard power bar is nearly impossible. You might as well forget it. So for me, I veer away from the solids and stick to liquids. That's just how I've transitioned over the years.
Well, and that just reminded me, have a plan B and plan C. Plan A is what you practice with. You know that nutrition works for you. Plan B is you might lose it on the bike. It may be too runny or too solid. It may not be worthwhile. So know that you can rely on what you carry with you, and you can also rely with what's on the course. I just heard stories about people that they forget. They show up race morning and they forget their nutrition. I've done that. Why? I don't know, because I'm experienced and I just take it for granted. But I also am the athlete that I could rely on anything that's offered on the race course. So always have those in your mind going, what if I lose it? What if I can't eat it? What if I can't chew it? What if I can't drink it? Whatever. There's other options.
Since we're talking about being efficient with your nutrition on the bike, I love to use my watch and set timers up every 20 minutes to remind me to eat or drink, even if I'm not thirsty or hungry, because I know physically my body needs it. Tell me how you time out your eating after the swim, because I've heard, the first half hour or so on the bike, you probably don't need anything because you've had enough prior to the swim, or maybe you do a quick fuel up before you hit on the bike. What do you do to get yourself prepped for that first hour of cycling?
So I didn't always do this, but I have something in transition. Sometimes I'm really out of breath and I'm breathless coming out of the water, so I have to wait for about 15 minutes of cycling. But I do have either something in transition if I can breathe, and if I can't, I'm ready for something within that first, 5 or so miles of the bike. Once I catch my breath, I take something right away. I think that's been pretty effective. Otherwise, I'm usually every 45 minutes. I'm taking in 100 calories about every 45 minutes or so. So I'm getting in about 150 to 200 within the hour. Between most of the time, it's a gel and liquid nutrition. Works best for me, but it does vary. You know what? I do humid races. I eat different than low humidity races. My body just craves different things depending on the weather.
One thing I've used, and I've got this advice from our friend Roger Thompson, is that, let's say at an Ironman race where you're in the water for a good hour, a little bit more, give or take, depends on transition and overall waiting before you can begin your swim. So you haven't eaten for a good hour, 10, 15 minutes. So he might take, or he would suggest, take maybe some sort of, let's say, I know Ensure is kind of the bad example, but something that's a shake or a drink of some kind in transition before the bike, just to top off your fuel, because you haven't fueled for the last so many hours, or that hour or so. So you can down 200, 300 quick calories that can kind of fill the gap for where you've been in preparing your body for the next, 16 hours or so.
And I think that's a great idea when it comes to that distance of a race, because I'm someone that I don't do what a lot of athletes do. Because I've never done it, is a lot of athletes will take in a gel like 30 minutes before they get in the water. I don't do that. It's an insulin. I don't want to spike my insulin like that. It just doesn't work for me. So I would be someone who definitely wants to eat something after an hour-long swim before I head out for that 56 or 112-mile bike. I haven't done the Ensure thing. I know what you're talking about. But I did used to do an Ensure or a Boost type product at the halfway point of an Ironman. I used to have that in my special needs bag, which is a whole nother topic.
It is. Yeah, and how to prepare and use those. Okay. Well, this is good. I hope that people found some value in this. You've reminded me of some good tips too, so thank you for that. So this is how to fuel efficiently on the bike and master those aid stations.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, thanks, Wendy.